can do about that.
Yeah.
Haley Barbour dropped out of the race, which is the key signal to this. He was a stout man, we'll put it that way, the governor. And he went on a crash diet and lost like 40 pounds. It looks great. It's good for his health. But he did it so he would. We haven't elected I speak as a large man with a big head. We have not elected. Make your material work for me.
That is working for someone.
Thank you very much. So we haven't elected a big guy since William Howard Taft, and and the next time when he ran for re-election again, he finished third. So you can't be a big, bulky guy and get elected. Right. So he lost all this weight, Barbour did, and then he took a look of the lay of the land and went, I'm not even running.
Right.
So this tells you that it's a race among the Republicans, it's a vanity race. And again, with the caveat that, if we'd been saying this a month ago, we would have said it was much closer.
Exactly.
But it would take something on that level of news importance to change things again.
And now somebody who doesn't look quite so much like a crackpot as others, Mitt Romney, he has built-in problems of his own.
Well, he does. He raised $10 million in one day. Of course, last time he raised $40 million and got one delegate, which is a very bad investment for a businessman. And he also has two problems. I mean, there's a lot of factionalism, obviously, and we've discussed this before. People are angry and people are not angry. But he's got problems from both sides. There's a lot of evangelicals and religious conservatives who are heavily involved in the Republican Party and conservative movement who don't believe that his religion is a religion, who think that this wonderful musical down the street, Book of Mormon, is in fact a documentary. And they can't take him seriously for that reason. I'm not criticizing either religion or their points of view, but he's got that on one side. On the other side, he instituted a health care reform situation while he was governor of Massachusetts that was far more liberal and far more spending of money and the rest of that than the one the president did in the United States. And thus, he is skewered on the one side by people who don't like his religion, and this is just in his own party, and skewered on the other side by people who said, you invented Obamacare, only it was Romney care there, and we're never going to get you elected. He's never going to get out of the primaries.
What about you mentioned the size, the governor of my home state, Indiana. I didn't realize this until a couple of days ago. A tiny, tiny man.
Yeah.
And people would say, you're not going to vote for a tiny, tiny man.
It works, as you've occasionally pointed out, when you run for mayor of New York.
Yeah. That's right. It's just his little guy.
You want those big-headed big guys to deal with maybe with the ears sticking out or something like that.
Now let me take you down memory lane. Now, there's no point in doing this except it kind of turns around in I think everybody's heads.
Yeah.
The United States is attacked. Shortly thereafter, we bomb and strafe Afghanistan. Then they put together a proposal with the weapons of mass destruction, and we get the approval to go ahead and jump into Iraq, and then we start a 10-year war, and hundreds of thousands of Americans and Iraqis are all killed. Barack Obama puts together some of his buddies with a helicopter. They go in and in more or less a precision strike, as the military might say, take out not only the titular head, but as we find out now, the actual functioning head of Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been better? And I'm not looking to heap blame on anybody, but just in theory, the way you talk about things, wouldn't it have been better if that had been the approach and the strategy from the beginning? Or would we, as Americans who had been attacked, would we have been satisfied by that? Would we have needed the big war?
I think the answer is the reaction to what happened 10 years later. I mean, essentially, we waited 10 years and people just felt this extraordinary sense of relief and accomplishment. And there are people, quite rightly, who question, was there a possibility of capturing him just for information? Should it have been done that way? But I think generally speaking, those are kind of nuances, and the reaction in this country was, thank goodness we did this.
Right.
And one thing I know this is going to sound silly to you, but one of the few people in the media who kept this issue alive of where is this son of a bitch was you. And every night you would come out here and there'd be a joke like, well, we spent all this money to get this, and we've done this, and we couldn't find Bin Laden.
Still no word on Bin Laden.
And that was, I mean, you might think of it as part of a component of an entertainment program, but to me, every time I saw it, it was a little reminder that, yeah, I mean, the point of this was to stop something like that from happening again by getting the guy at its head. And
well,
I appreciate
No.
But
let me. If you want to show
if you'd like to do the show after mine on Current TV at 9 o'clock, the news show, we're ready to
can we do something about Leno now?
Yeah.
Let me just revisit this. Let me just revisit this one thing. The Americans in my lifetime had never felt the way we felt after the attacks. Would we then, me, the rank and file, Mr. and Mrs. Front Porch, everybody, would we have been satisfied with this commitment from a president, whoever it might have been? Instead of a war, what we are going to do is we are going to put all of our intelligence resources, and our highly skilled special forces teams to ferret out and destroy this place.
Do you remember any protest of any significant kind when President Bush said, okay, we believe he's hiding in Afghanistan. After all, that's where the Taliban is, the organization that supports Al-Qaeda and vice versa, where they are in power, we're going into Afghanistan. Because if we can't get him, we can get other people who were related to these attacks. There weren't, liberals did not cry about that, and we did not protest that, and there were not claims, and to this day, nobody thought going into Afghanistan was a bad idea, provided that we followed up and finished that off instead of diverting all those resources into Iraq, where Al-Qaeda had nothing to do with it, and certainly bin Laden had nothing to do with it. I think that's your answer right there, was support for that.
Thank you.
If you'd been able to pull him out immediately, I think the world would have changed in a lot of different ways, but that's one of the ways it would have changed.
Yeah, it's sad and regrettable, but we do have that as an accomplished dream. I hope that mends up in time for the big show, which debuts on June 20th on Current TV. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, KeithOlberman. Good to see you again. Good luck to the show. We'll be right back with Julie Bowen, everybody.